Narcissistic personality disorder cannot be diagnosed before age 18, and some scholars say 21. However, it begins to develop. It can begin to develop starting at age 2.
Hello everybody, I'm Coach Eleanor. For more information about me, look in the description below. This video is with Professor Sam Vaknin. He teaches at universities all over the world. If you want to have more information about him, look in the description. I put all the information. If you like this video, then like this video. If you want to see more of this kind of videos with me and Sam Vaknin, then subscribe, because I'm going to have more and more interviews with him. And if you have any questions for me or for him, put it in the description below, and who knows, your question is going to be in our videos. Is it okay for you that I introduce myself and then announce you?
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to know as well.
Yeah. Okay, I'm Coach Eleanor. I'm a therapist, a licensed therapist, and my specialties are communication and relationships. And I just started a YouTube channel, Level Up with Eleanor, and also give online training and online sessions. So it's an honor for me to introduce you. It's such a special thing for me, and I follow you for 7 years. So for me, it's like a celebrity, because I know your face so well, and yeah, it's very special, and I'm very grateful for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're a professor in finance, but also in psychology, in several universities like the Southern Federal University in Russia, and the Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies, CIAPS it's called. And of course, the author of Malignant Self Love Narcissism Revisited. How can you forget if you look for 7 years?
Yes, and, indeed.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with narcissism, this is called the Bible of Narcissism. And if you're familiar with narcissism, it's a shame if you don't have it on your shelf. You need to have this book. Yes, and of course you write a lot of books and ebooks and everything. So thank you.
We will agree on a commission on the sales later after the interview.
But you deserve it, and I want to welcome you and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. You're based in the Netherlands, I understand.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, it's a little bit of accent, but I hope it goes well. So,
it goes well. It goes well.
So I have a lot of questions.
Sure.
And let's start with the beginning. When and how does narcissism develop? In what age and in what way?
Narcissistic personality disorder cannot be diagnosed before age 18, and some scholars say 21. However, it begins to develop. It can begin to develop starting at age 2. It's a phase that in healthy people is called separation individuation, where the child separates from the parent and begins to constellate a self, begins to form a self. If the parent is good enough, as we say in psychology, then the parent, especially the mother, lets the child separate, encourages the child to separate, provides the child with a safe base so that the child can explore the world and return to mommy whenever the world becomes too threatening or frightening. But if the mother is selfish, depressed, absent, narcissistic, etc., etc., if the mother instrumentalizes the child, regards the child as a tool, for example, tool to realize her unfulfilled wishes and dreams, if she parentifies the child, if she forces the child to be the parent and she becomes like a child, in all these pathologies, and of course, if she abuses the child physically, verbally, sexually, in all these pathologies, the personal growth and development stops. And what the child does instead, the child creates false self, a fictitious sort of imaginary friend, which has all the attributes of God. This imaginary friend is all-powerful, all-knowing, brilliant, perfect, everything the child is not. The child is helpless and small and not so perfect, but the false self is God. And the child begins to develop a private religion. The child sacrifices himself to this God. He sacrifices his true self. And from that moment, when the child had suspended himself, all that is left is the false self. And we have a narcissist.
Yeah.
In effect. So most commonly, narcissism begins to form between ages 2 and 4. Most commonly.
Yeah. So before that, they didn't experience love or empathy.
Before the age of 2, you mean?
Yeah.
The earliest that narcissism can begin to form is age 18 months, because prior to 18 months, we have a situation called symbiosis or merger, fusion, where the child does not regard himself as totally separate from his mother.
Okay.
So only when separation is attempted and fails, only then narcissistic defense kicks in. And that could happen earliest 18 months. But it's rare because it takes a few months for the child to realize that he is being frustrated. He's not allowed to separate. He's not allowed to become an individual. And the child accumulates enormous rage, enormous anger, and enormous shame. The two engines of narcissism are anger and shame that could not be expressed properly because the child cannot be angry at mommy. Mommy is the source of life. Mommy gives food and shelter, and so the child cannot legitimately be angry at mommy. The child is ashamed of himself. And these go on throughout life. And the narcissist is a time bomb of shame and rage.
And when that develops at 4 years, but after that experience, they have a better life, let's say that they get adopted, is it getting better then?
Yes, up until early adolescence, essentially pathological narcissistic defenses, because we don't have yet a personality disorder. We have defenses. Up until early adolescence, let's say 12, 11, 12, 13 maximum, it is still possible to reverse the process and to begin to form a relatively healthy constellated self. There will be problems with attachment in such people. So there will be insecure attachment, various forms of insecure attachment. There may be antisocial traits, a bit psychopathic, like defiance. There may be behavioral problems, usually there are. There will be sexual precocity, in other words, the early sexual experiences and unusual sexual experiences. There will be depression and anxiety, and later in life there will be substance abuse.
Okay.
So the damage done between 2 and 4 can be reversed in the sense that there will not be a full-fledged narcissistic personality disorder, but the damage to the child is long-lasting in a variety of other ways: depression, anxiety, substance abuse, sexual misbehavior, and so on.
Yeah, I used to think in the early days, there's maybe with the difficult people, they have a kind of wall around their hearts. But I learned from you, it's an empty shelf. But is there anywhere like a mourning child in the narcissist? Is there a mourning child, or is it really an empty shelf?
Yes, so I've just released a video and a dialogue with Richard Grannon on the narcissist as a grieving infant. The narcissist, the true self remains inside the narcissist, and true self, of course, is a metaphor. No one captured the true self in the laboratory.
No.
It's a metaphor. It simply means the core, what we call the core, the outcome of introspection, even very primitive introspection, the boundaries that surround this introspection. So the true self remains, but it is fossilized, it's ossified, it's stagnant, it's static. There's no dynamics there. So in many respects, it's in a vegetative state. It's like in coma.
Oh, yeah.
But it's there. And the child mourns, the child grieves over what could have been. The child is frustrated and so on, but he also starts a very early process of mourning and grieving. of what could have been, the potential, the wasted potential, the life unlived. And this grieving goes to this very day. I just participated in a documentary by Mark Vicente, and in the middle of the documentary, I started to cry because I have narcissistic personality disorder.
Yes.
I'm sure you know. So the documentary was so triggering, and I was forced to go into very many details.
Yeah.
That at some point I started to cry uncontrollably. The grieving is there all the time. The mourning is there.
Yeah.
And the narcissist is an infant. The emotional age of narcissists is at the most 9 years old, but usually, much more typically, it's 2 to 4. Yeah. And the majority, I would say, is 2.